obscuring his face, his vision. He began to swing both arms, batting and slashing at the fabric. Sandy Lynn scrambled toward the closet. She was opening that door when he grabbed a fistful of her robe's collar, also catching hold of her long brown hair. Pain should have stopped her. Adrenaline overrode it. She twisted and tugged, managing to reach the edge of the golf bag. It crashed to the floor. So did she. Screaming, "No, no, no!" she pulled out a random club and started swinging. "Hey," he faltered, stepped back. "Get out of here!" Again she swung, this time aiming higher than his ankles, and heard the metal shaft of the club connect with shin bone. The attacker shouted wordlessly. Battling the urge to shut her eyes and blot everything out, Sandy Lynn stood and continued defending herself. Again and again the club connected with loud thwacks. He dropped his knife and raised both arms to protect his face and head. She knew she was hurting him. How long could she continue before her strength gave out? Could she last long enough to drive him off? Or was he going to eventually pick up his knife and come for her? Sounds of a scuffle woke Clay Danforth. He stared up at the ceiling and saw the light fixture vibrate. Whatever was happening on the floor above him was violent, which did not bode well for the residents of that apartment. He listened carefully, seeking confirmation of his initial conclusion. It came in the form of a woman's scream. It didn't matter that he hadn't yet met his neighbors. Somebody up there needed him, and although his authority had ended when he'd left the police force, his concern for fellow citizens had not. He pulled on jeans and boots, palmed his phone long enough to call 911, then slipped a gun into the waistband at the small of his back and headed for the stairway. Taking the steps two at a time, he rounded the corner and saw a partially open door. Raised voices identified that apartment as the source of the conflict. A woman's screeching demand to be left alone spurred him into a run. Slamming his shoulder against the outer wall next to the door jamb, he drew the gun. "Police, come out with your hands up." In moments, a black-clad figure raced past him and pounded down the stairs. Without knowing any details, Clay didn't dare shoot, nor was it prudent to give chase. Anticipating a second criminal or more, Clay whipped around the corner and took a shooter's stance in the doorway. Something whizzed past his ear and clipped the edge of his shoulder. If he had not been a seasoned veteran, the blow might have caused him to accidentally fire. "Stop! I'm a police officer." Which was sort of still true. He diverted his aim. His free hand shot out to grab the metal shaft of the club. When he focused on the person holding the leather grip, the effect was mind-blowing. Looking into those familiar hazel eyes, he croaked, "Sandy?" The impossibility that he would have chosen an apartment directly beneath that of the one woman who had shattered his heart into 1,000 pieces was not only astounding, it made him furious with the friend who had talked him into the lease. He would never have listened to Abe and signed the contract if he dreamed she lived in the same building. Never in a million years. Lips parted and trembling, Sandy Lynn pointed to the hallway. "He's getting away." Clay snapped back into professional mode. "Was he alone?" "I think so." She was nodding as the grumbling roar from an accelerating motorcycle broke into the night. Clay wrested the golf club from her and closed the door behind him with his foot, never relaxing vigilance. "Are you sure?" I only saw one man." She left him and hurried back to her injured roommate, dropping to her knees. "Enid, honey, talk to me." Clay made a cursory search of the tiny apartment, then joined her. "What happened?" Sandy Lynn's tear-streaked face lifted.